Good morning, everybody, or evening, afternoon. Nice to be here with you again so we can all be together. So I'm going to give a couple minutes here for people to log in. As you probably many of you know, or hopefully you find out that I'm only on YouTube now. So you have to log into YouTube to see this. So if you would like to leave your name and where you're calling in from in the chat, I will receive that info, and that would be great to hear from you. So hope you've had a good week. This past weekend was a special event for us. It was the birth anniversary of Chariji, who is one of our spiritual guides of heartfulness. And, for us, it was a great great moment because we got to meet so many old friends because it was the first time we were able to get together in person in 2 years at our small ashram in Beaver Creek, Ohio, which is very close to Dayton. So that was really amazing that we were able to come together and just hang out for 3 days and meditate and learn and unlearn and everything that happens. So, all right. So I'm going to just talk today about. Oh, hi. Yes. Hi, my Paul. Nice to see you and know you're there in Bali, Indonesia. Great. So I see some other people are joining in, so that's great. Okay. Today, I thought I would talk about just, things in the moment, life in the moment, things that affect us in every moment, and what, how do we approach our spiritual life, our spiritual practice? What are the things we can do in the daily moments where we really need to call upon that deeper resource within to help us get through the day or to deal with a certain situation, or just overall, what does it mean to just be here present each moment? That's a really important thing. So I see a few more people are joining in. So if for those of you joining in, please do feel free to put your name and say hi and maybe where you're from. That would be great. Nira, welcome. Nice to have you joining in. All right. So, there's a small book, and you've heard me mention this probably before. I see people are joining in. Well, welcome everybody. And you've heard me mention this book before, and it's there's a version of it that's published by Heartfulness Institute, and that is it's called As a Man Thinketh, that by James Allen. And this gentleman, I don't know if you can see his picture there, okay, but he lived in the latter part of the 1800s and early part of the 1900s. And he was a philosopher. He lived in England. He was somewhat of a philosopher. He had studied Vedanta. He had studied a lot of the Eastern thought. And his writing in this book is so remarkable and it's so relevant to what we do. And he was a contemporary of Lalaji and Swami Vivekananda. Lalaji was the founder of the Heartfulness, what we now know as the Heartfulness method. So he was alive during those years, and I can't help but think he was catching the spiritual wave that is now breaking upon the shores worldwide that we're seeing. Because when you read this book and what he says, it's just so clear and so logical and so profound. And it has a lot to do with, our daily life and how we think and how we deal with things in the very present moment. And so that's what I want to talk about today. But first, let me say hi to Neera, Chaitra, RJ, welcome. SM Muniswaran, Prashant Radikuti, SM, welcome SM, Balatir, Madhusudan, and Preeti. Okay, great. Glad you're all here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a few passages from this book so that we can all enjoy and share in this knowledge. It's really helpful. So I'll take just some random things that I picked out. And this first one is about how thought impacts even our physical body. So let me read this a little bit here. So James Allen says, "There is no physician like cheerful thought for dissipating the ills of your body. There is no comforter to compare with goodwill for dispersing the shadows of grief and sorrow. To live continually in thoughts of ill will, cynicism, suspicion, and envy is to be confined to a self-made prison. But to think well of all, to be cheerful with all, and to patiently learn to find the good in all, such unselfish thoughts are the very portals of heaven. And to dwell day by day in thoughts of peace towards every creature will bring abounding peace to their possessor." Oh, wow. So straightforward. But you know what? You know, the reality is that every day we go through our life and, without fail, we're usually having to make a judgment about somebody, or we make a judgment about somebody. And also the other thing we do is we make judgments about ourselves too. We tend to be very harsh about ourselves and judge ourselves and criticize our own actions. And then we feel bad. We feel guilty. We may even feel shameful. There's so many things. But all of that has to do with what our mind thinks. And that's why this book is called As a Man Thinketh. There's some newer versions of it that have become more gender neutral, as you thinketh. Yes, so as we think, that creates our condition. So look, let's take a moment right now. Okay, right now. And just what I want you to do is I want you to just relax for a minute. And I want you to become aware of where you are. Become aware of your body. Look around you. Become aware of the space that you're in. Now just don't think. Just be aware of where you are. Even look at your hands. And just bring your attention, your presence to your hands. Okay, so in this very simple practice we're doing right now, when we bring our attention to the present, to our hands, to the space that we're in, that's reality. That's what's really going on. But if we start to think, we're so influenced by all of this stuff from our past, our opinions, and past experiences we've had. We're so influenced by our likes, what we love to do, and people we love, and people we don't like. you know, and that's our world of thoughts. We have created a universe that we live in, and the universe is our thoughts. Isn't it something? But when we come to the present and just take a moment to look at our hands, to look around, suddenly we realize, oh, we can step out of that universe of thought and just rest for a moment in the present, and how powerful that is. And sometimes, very often, we can take a deep breath in. That's another way of coming to the present moment. So, how do we manage, our daily life? We have our spiritual practice, so we have our morning meditation. And for those of you who are new, I'm talking about the heartfulness practices. We have a morning meditation we do that sets the tone for the day. And then we go through our day doing our work, going to school, whatever it is that we do. We have a lot of experiences during the day. We may have some emotional things that come up for us during the day. And we have thousands and thousands of thoughts. At the end of the day, we have an evening cleaning process that we can clear off the influences from the day and sort of reground ourselves. So these are practices that we have, but, it's good to remind ourselves that the thought we're thinking right now is the thought that's making us. It's reinforcing our future. Okay, so I want to read another passage from this book. All right, here we go. Okay. Here it is. This is James Allen again. All that you achieve and all that you fail to achieve is the direct result of your own thoughts. In a justly ordered universe where loss of equipoise would mean total destruction, individual responsibility must be absolute. So we must be responsible for our thinking and our actions. Your weakness and strength, purity and impurity are your own and not another person's. They are brought about by yourself and not by another. And they can only be altered or changed, never by another, only by yourself. Your condition, how you feel, is also your own and not another person's. Your sufferings and your happiness are evolved from within. As you think, so you are. As you continue to think, so you remain. I mean, is this not simple wisdom of daily life on a way to remind ourselves? It's good to keep this book handy because it's so powerful. Every paragraph is so powerful, and it reminds us that, yes, we always have to remind ourselves to come back to our center. And that can mean different things for different people or at different stages in your spiritual practice. For example, we have something we call constant remembrance. And that's where we're resting on the presence that we feel in meditation. And we may know that presence just as presence, or we may know it as the feeling that I had in meditation, or we may think of it as a divine presence, or we may think of it as remembrance of the master or the master's presence. So there's any number of ways that we may think about remembrance. But the remembrance we're talking about is the heart's remembrance. not the mind's remembrance. The heart, once its remembrance gets activated, the heart can remember in an infinite way. It doesn't remember pieces and parts. It's here right now, remembering that our divinity, the real being that we really are, is not our thoughts. It is that divine presence here and now. But it's our thinking that causes all of the difficulties for ourselves or creates every possibility and every opportunity for us going forward. So it's good to be reminded of these things. So just let me repeat that one paragraph. Your condition is also your own and not another person's. Your sufferings and your happiness are evolved from within you. As you think, so you are. As you continue to think, so you remain. So, in the context of our spiritual practice, growing in our spirituality, okay, helps to correct our thinking. And by doing our morning meditation and evening cleaning, we become less and less influenced by our past impressions or past influences, or what we might call our past samskaras or deep-rooted impressions. So our practice is really essential to help us redirect our thoughts, which in turn shape our destiny. All right, so I want to take up another beautiful part from this book. This is in chapter 6, which is called Visions and Ideals. And I may have read this once before, but I want to read this to you. And I want you to really take this in. Think about this in the context of your own life. Think about all of this from the context of your daily life. You know, do you find yourself, getting reactive during the day? Do you find your thoughts starting to become, judgmental or, going down a negative direction, And what is the impact of that on you? What is the impact of that on your how you feel, on your inner condition? And also think about how, when we feel really good, when we're inspired, when we're with people who we love and we're inspired to be around them, how that influences our thoughts and how important keeping good company is to us. That we inspire each other to have positive thoughts and to think of things that we can do for the future. And that's what this section is that I'm going to read right now. This is about using our thought to build a better world, really. So here's James Allen says, "The dreamers are the saviors of the world. As the visible world is sustained by the invisible, so society, with all their trials and sins and sordid vocations, are nourished by the beautiful visions of their solitary dreamers." I'm going to pause here for a second. So, when I think about this, the dreamers are the saviors of the world. When I think about this in relationship to Daji, our spiritual guide in Heartfulness, and what his vision was to create a place like Kanha Shantivanam, and the fact that he basically was able to dream that and create that within a span of 5 or 6 years. Isn't it amazing? Isn't that something wondrous? And to think that each one of us has this capacity to dream something big and even manifest something that big. We all have that ability. Now we're not all a Daji, that's for sure. But this is our potential. So let me read this again. "The dreamers are the saviors of the world. As the visible world is sustained by the invisible, so society, with all their trials and sins and sordid vocations, are nourished by the beautiful visions of their solitary dreamers. Dreamers pick us up. Humanity cannot forget its dreamers. It cannot let their ideals fade and die. It lives in them. It knows them in the realities which it shall one day see and know. Composer, sculptor, painter, poet, prophet, sage. These are the makers of the afterworld, the architects of heaven. The world is beautiful because they have lived. Without them, laboring humanity would perish. Those who cherish a beautiful vision, a lofty ideal in their heart, will one day realize it. Early explorers cherished a vision of another world, and they discovered it. Astronomers fostered the vision of a multiplicity of worlds and a wider universe, and they revealed it. Buddha beheld the vision of a spiritual world of stainless beauty and perfect peace, and he entered into it. Cherish your visions. Cherish your ideals. The music that stirs in your heart. The beauty that forms in your mind. The loveliness that drapes your purest thoughts. For out of them will grow all delightful conditions, all heavenly environment. Of these, if you but remain true to them, your world will at last be built. Wow. I mean, this is powerful. This is so powerful. And, to think, again, for those who have joined later, in the beginning, as I introduced this book is called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, and it's published by Heartfulness Publishing. And James Allen lived during the time of Lalaji, who was the founder of our method, and also during the time of Swami Vivekananda. So, I said earlier on, this is someone who lived in England and who was studying Eastern thought. He was studying yoga. He was studying Vedanta, and he was opened himself up, through his own meditation. He didn't know these masters, but he opened himself up, and look at the truth that he picked up that was being brought to the world at that time. And he was able to bring that out within himself and bring it out within his writings. And now to this day, over 100 years later, his writing is every bit as fresh and relevant today as it was back then. He was really ahead of his time, as was someone like Lalaji and Swami Vivekananda in a way. I mean, when we think about it in context of the Western world, that they were bringing thought and teaching that had been around for thousands of years, but that was very new to the West. So I'm delighted that Heartfulness Publishing has published this book, As a Man Thinketh. I invite you to purchase a copy of it. It's a very small book. You can read this in just probably 35 minutes, 40 minutes, but it's a book to keep around. So this is one way that we can remind ourselves how important the thoughts are that we have each day, and how important our practice, and especially the cleaning, is in helping us to shift the patterns from our past that tend to shape our opinions about ourselves and others, and how we can start to shift that and shift our thinking and build our own world, our own life is what we're doing. We're building our own life with our own thoughts. Okay, so with that, uh, I would like to have us all meditate together and experience the present moment and let ourselves let go of the influences of our thoughts and to allow ourselves to experience something new, something fresh, something that's here and now. And I can't even say here and now. What we experience when we meditate together is something that's infinite. That's something that's beyond time. It's not even here and now. That's a time-based idea. So we want to transcend time itself. All right. So if you are all ready, I see a few more people have joined in. Iverson, welcome. And Radha, welcome. All right. We're going to meditate together. So let's sit comfortably. And today, as after we get into the meditation, I'll be putting up a screen that says meditation in progress. And when we finish the meditation, I bring us out of it, I'll be back live on screen again and bring us out of the meditation. So let's sit comfortably. Let's take a slow, deep breath in. And let it go. Okay, so let's bring our awareness to the area of our heart and just rest on the heart and feel the lightness in the heart. Now let's rest our thought on the source of light already present in our heart. And just feel that it's drawing you inwards. Let's stay with this thought. That's all. Let's take a moment and observe how we're feeling now. How have our thoughts settled? And let's have the thought that this peaceful inner condition is expanding within us. And have the thought that all your friends and loved ones are also included in that deep, peaceful state. And now let's include the entire world in this peaceful feeling. Okay, whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, so that's it for today. And I'm grateful that you made time to come together and we had a chance to meditate together. So I just want to say thank you to Sita and Shilpa and Radha and Iverson and Preeti and all of the rest of you who have joined the meditation today. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And remember now, I'm only doing this on YouTube, so make sure you share that with your friends and loved ones too. So if they want to tune in, I'll be here next week. All the best. Stay with the heart. And until then, I'll see you next week.